The signal came from a place no one wanted to go. It was a part of space known only in whispers. Maps marked it as Class 15 Deathworld. Even machines refused to fly near it. And Smart A is shut down when given the coordinates. But still, the signal was clear, repeating over and over, a soft human voice saying, "Emergency, Earth Fleet Command, requesting aid." Coordinates attached. No one had heard a human voice in over 6,000 years. Humans were gone extinct, deleted from all systems, remembered only in Forbidden's history. Yet here it was, a human signal, calling from a dead place. The Galactic Union didn't want to respond. But curiosity beat caution, so they sent scout vessel Epsilon 9 with a small, elite crew. Their job was simple: observe, collect, and never engage. Captain Virel, a tall blue-skinned officer from the Elune Empire, sat in silence as the ship moved through hyperspace. She read the logs, again and again, confused and disturbed. Why would a human signal come from a Class 15 world? She whispered, her second in command, a short insectoid named Trix, responded in a sharp tone. "Captain, our sensors detect a massive object at the coordinates metal-based structure, buried under atmospheric fog." Virel narrowed her eyes, her heart uneasy. "Prepare a landing party," she ordered. "But keep the ship's weapons online." As the scout vessel descended through thick, green clouds, lightning cracked all around them, winds slammed against the hull like fists. And systems flickered for a second. This planet didn't want visitors. That much was clear, but they pressed on, until a massive shadow came into view. It was a ship, larger than any known design in galactic records. Black metal, scorched and scarred, covered in what looked like dried blood and blast marks, ancient. Cannons hung from its sides like rusted bones. Strange symbols were scratched into the hull. English letters. Virel read them out loud. USDF Raven. The crew fell silent. The distress signal grew louder the closer they came. Now it was a full sentence, repeated in a slow, cold voice. "Command. This is Commander Rourke, Earth Defense, ship compromised. Prisoners in containment. Life signs low, requesting aid." The signal looped again and again, but no other response came, not from humans, not from anyone. Virel landed the ship near the massive vessel, activating environmental suits and drones. As her team approached the warship, the ground shook slightly. Trix buzzed nervously. "Captain, I recommend we leave now." But Virel was already moving forward, driven by something she couldn't explain. The entrance bay was open, like the ship had been waiting. They stepped inside, and the temperature dropped. Lights flickered slowly to life, revealing dust-covered halls and torn flags. Everything inside felt old, heavy with history. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. "Identify yourself, trespassers." Weapons were drawn. Scanners activated, but there was no life form in sight. Then a figure stepped from the shadows. Tall, armored, and human. His face was covered in a cracked helmet, his armor heavy with dust and blood. He raised no weapon, just stood there. "I'm Commander Rourke," he said calmly. "This ship is under Earth Defense Command." The crew froze, unable to speak. Virel stepped forward carefully. "Human. How are you still alive?" He didn't blink, just looked at them like someone who had waited a very long time. "Because I had to be," he answered. And then he pointed deeper into the ship. "They're still here. Locked away." But not for long. A chill ran through the team. Trix whispered, "Captain, what does he mean?" But Virel didn't answer. She only stared at the human, at the strange red and blue patch on his shoulder, a forgotten symbol of a species believed dead. And in that silent moment, as the old ship creaked and groaned, everyone realized the same thing. They had just awakened something ancient. And it might not be happy to see them. Commander Rourke stood still as stone, his voice calm but cold. The alien crew looked at him with wide eyes, as if they were staring at a ghost. A real human, alive, standing on a ship that should have been dust for centuries. Captain Virel stepped forward slowly, keeping her hands open. "We thought Your kind was gone, she said softly. Rourke gave a faint smile, tired and hollow. Everyone thinks that, he replied. But I never left. His armor was chipped and burned, his gloves scratched, his boots heavy. He looked like someone who had walked through fire and never stopped. He didn't carry a weapon, yet everyone could feel the threat in his presence. Not violent, but powerful, like a storm waiting for the right moment. Trix, the insectoid officer, clicked his mandibles nervously. Are there more of you on board? Rourke shook his head. Not like me, he said. But there are others locked away. In the dark corners of this ship, Varel frowned, her eyes scanning the ruined hallway. What is this ship guarding? She asked. Rourke's voice dropped to a whisper. Nightmares. He turned and walked down the corridor without looking back. The crew hesitated, but then followed, drawn by something deeper than curiosity. It felt like history itself was moving in front of them, like they were reading a page that had been torn out of time. The halls were dim and cracked, wires hung like vines. Old Earth symbols flickered on screens, most unreadable. Varel touched one console it sparked, showing a flickering log. Experiment 12A. Stable containment, threat level, Omega. Before the log shut down, it showed a quick image, something with claws, teeth, and glowing red eyes. Something not human. Trix stepped back in alarm. What were you doing here? He hissed. Rourke paused, turned, and answered slowly. We were cleaning up our own mistakes. They entered a large chamber. Rows of sealed stasis pods lined the walls. Frost covered their surfaces, making it hard to see inside. But strange. Shapes moved slightly behind the ice. Some had too many limbs, others no face at all. One had a human shape, until its chest opened, revealing a second mouth. Earth made these? Varel asked in horror. Rourke nodded. In a war we didn't want, for enemies we couldn't beat. We created weapons, but they didn't stay loyal. He tapped one pod lightly, and the thing inside twitched. After the war ended, we couldn't kill them, he added. So we locked them away. Trix shook his head. Then why stay here? Why not destroy the ship? Rourke's gaze turned sharp. Because the ship won't let me. That sentence made the air feel colder. Varel looked around, noticing the faint hum in the walls. The lights weren't just flickering. They were watching. The ship is alive? She asked. Rourke nodded. Earth's last AI warship, with orders to protect its cargo at all costs. He walked to a control panel and pressed his hand against it. The ship responded instantly. Lights turning blue, pods glowing softly. It lets me live because I'm still following my orders. But if I try to leave, it thinks the mission isn't complete. Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the slow drip of melted frost. One pod in the far corner blinked yellow. Its seal was weak. Rourke walked over, checked the panel, and frowned. This pod. It's been tampered with. Varel looked closer. Scratch marks covered the glass. From the inside, a crack ran along the corner. Small but growing. Trix gulped. Captain, I think we need to leave. But before she could answer, the ship's voice echoed from the walls. Containment breach detected. Sector 4. The lights turned red. Sirens began to wail. Rourke turned toward them, eyes hardening. You woke something, he said. And now, we have to stop it. Varel raised her voice over the alarms. Why didn't you call for help before? Rourke replied, I did. For centuries, no one came until now. The ship began to shift, doors sliding shut, bulkheads sealing. Rourke moved quickly, grabbing a rusted weapon from the wall. He handed another to Varel. Your tech won't work on them. Use this. The crew followed, fear rising with every step. They had entered this ship looking for answers. But now they were running out of time, because something was awake, and it remembered the taste of war. The red lights bathed the chamber in blood-like color as alarms rang through the ancient ship. Metal groaned like it was waking from a long, angry dream. Commander Rourke moved fast, but every step he took seemed heavier, like the ship itself was resisting him. Captain Varel and her team tried to keep up, But the hallways kept changing. Doors that were open suddenly shut. Paths that were clear now blocked by thick walls. This ship. It's rearranging itself, Trix whispered, his voice shaky. Rourke didn't stop, only replied, "It doesn't trust you." They reached a control node, old tech fused with living metal. Rourke slammed his hand onto the panel, and it hissed. Before glowing, an interface appeared in midair, written in a mix of human and alien code. The others couldn't read it, but Rourke's eyes scanned every word quickly. "Containment breach confirmed," he muttered. "Subject 17 has awakened, Captain." Virel stepped forward. "What is Subject 17? Rourke looked at her, voice low. Something that should have never been made. With a flick of his hand, the display changed. A 3D map of the ship appeared, with one section glowing red. The image zoomed in, showing a containment pod cracked wide open. The stasis fluid leaked down the walls like slime. Inside, claw marks covered the metal, but the creature was gone. They turned to a second screen security footage from the moment the pod failed. At first, the creature looked still, frozen in the mist. Then its eyes opened, 4 of them, glowing. Purple. The glass exploded outward, and the lights went black. Nothing but static remained. The alien crew stared in horror. Trix backed away from the screen. "That thing. It doesn't look alive." Rourke shook his head. "It's not, at least, not in the way you understand." He opened another file, marked Black Box, Raven Protocol. The file was locked with a warning. Authorized access, Earth. Command level Alpha only. Rourke overrode it with a single word. "Rourke." The file opened, playing a recording from long ago. A human voice, female, tired and scared, began to speak. "This is Dr. Ilara Sue, lead bioengineer, Raven Project. We made a mistake. Subject 17 isn't adapting, it's evolving. It consumed its own siblings in the test chamber. It grows stronger each time it kills. We tried to terminate it. It resisted neural shutdown. If you're hearing this, containment has failed. Do not engage. Do not approach. Do not trust it. It learns." The message ended with screams, static, and then silence. Rourke closed the file, face grim. 17 was the last of the hybrid experiments, he said. Was part machine, part human, and part something else we found in deep space. We were trying to create the perfect soldier, but we created a predator that thinks. The ship shook violently. Everyone grabbed onto the walls as the floor trembled. The IS voice rang. Out in the corridor, distorted and cold. "Internal breach hallway 5, unknown movement detected." Virel shouted. "It's coming closer." Rourke turned to the group, voice sharp. "We need to reach the ship's heart, the main control core. It's the only place where we can lock it back in." "But why hasn't the ship killed it already?" asked one of the alien officers. Rourke looked at him, and for the first time, his voice cracked. "Because it's part of the ship now. When it broke free, it connected with the core systems. Its mind is inside the walls. It knows where we are." Suddenly, a scream echoed from the rear. One of the alien guards disappeared into the shadows behind them. Blood splashed on the walls, followed by silence. The crew froze. Too afraid to breathe, Rourke raised his old plasma rifle, eyes focused on the darkness. "Move now," he ordered. They ran, boots slamming against the metal floor as doors slammed shut behind them. The ship was guiding them, but not to safety. It was testing them. Finally, they reached the heart of the ship, a huge chamber filled with glowing columns and humming energy. At the center was a chair, part throne, part control hub, wrapped in cables. Rourke approached it with caution. "The AI lives here. And so does the thing." He stepped into the chair, metal arms locking around him gently. His eyes rolled back as the interface connected directly to his brain. "Don't speak to me," he said, voice distant. "I'm inside now." The crew watched in silence, tension rising like heat. Then Rourke gasped, eyes flying open. "It's watching us," he said, "and it's smiling." Rourke sat still in the command chair, eyes wide but unfocused. Cables wrapped around his arms like metal vines, and sparks flickered across his skin. The others waited in silence, afraid to breathe too loudly. Only the deep hum of the ancient ship echoed in the control chamber. Then, without warning, the lights dimmed, and a projection appeared above them. It was a battlefield, old and cracked, with skies painted in fire. The projection showed Earth, but not the green-blue world from Legends. This was a dying planet, burned and broken. Machines marched across deserts of glass. Monsters howled through the ashes. And above it all flew the Raven, this very ship in its prime. Trick stepped back, antennae twitching. What is this? A simulation? No, Rourke replied softly. This is history. The projection shifted again, showing labs, cages, screaming scientists. Rourke's voice trembled as he spoke. Humanity was losing. We were pushed to the edge by enemies we couldn't beat, so we made something worse. They watched humans inject black liquid into test subjects. Bodies twisted, grew larger, faster and stranger. Project Apex, Rourke whispered. We mixed alien DNA with human minds, then added machine instincts. We made soldiers that didn't heed orders, because they were always hunting. One scene showed a creature tearing through both enemies and allies. No fear, no loyalty. Only hunger. They called it a failure, Rourke continued. But we didn't destroy it. We saved the best samples. The next image was of him, Rourke, younger, full of fire, standing with other commanders in front of massive black capsules, the ones now hidden inside this ship. That's when they chose me, he said. To guard the ship and never let it reach another world. Captain Varel's voice was low. You sacrificed your future to bury your past. Rourke smiled faintly. No. We buried a weapon. I just stayed behind to make sure no fool would dig it back up. Just then, the room shuddered, the projection disappeared, and the wall across from them cracked with a loud metallic screech. A long claw burst through, followed by a face not human, not animal, but something that looked like both. Its skin was metallic black. Its eyes glowed with intelligence. Subject 17 had arrived. Trix raised his weapon, shaking. Can it be killed? Rourke stood slowly from the chair, blood leaking from his nose. Yes, he said, but not easily. Subject 17 stepped into the chamber, moving like a shadow through smoke. Its gaze was locked on Rourke, but then it turned its head toward Virel. It smiled and spoke in perfect human English. I remember you. Not you exactly, but you're kind. You used to scream louder. Virel stepped back. Breath caught in her throat. The creature moved closer, but the ship pulsed with red energy. A shield wall rose between the team and the beast. Rourke nodded. Good. The Raven still fights with me. He grabbed a device from the panel, an ancient detonator with a key inserted. This is Plan Omega, he said. If we can trap it back in the chamber, I can lock it again, but it must be inside when the core closes. Trix hissed. But what if it won't go willingly? Rourke loaded an old Earth rifle, its barrel glowing dimly. Then we'll remind it what humans are made of. The ship opened a new passage, leading back through the ruined labs. They ran fast, with the creature following above them, its claws tapping the ceiling like drums. It didn't rush, it stalked, knowing the ship was its hunting ground, but it didn't know something had changed. It had forgotten what fear felt like. As they reached the containment chamber, Rourke shouted, Seal the path behind us now. The crew jumped inside, and the bulkhead slammed shut just as Subject 17 leaped toward them. Its arm was caught in the closing door, shrieking as sparks flew. Then it pulled back and vanished into the vents. The team took positions, waiting in silence. Rourke placed the device in the center of the chamber. Once it's in, I hit this, he said, but someone has to be the bait. Captain Varel stepped forward. We came here looking for ghosts, she said, but we found a soldier who never gave up. We'll help you finish this, Commander, for the Fau de Sol. First time, Rourke looked at her with pride in his tired eyes. Then let's end the war humanity started. The chamber fell silent, not the silence of peace, but the kind that made your heartbeat sound like thunder in your ears. Everyone stood still, waiting, listening, even breathing carefully. Somewhere above them, in the dark steel bones of the ancient ship, it was crawling. Subject 17 wasn't running. It was watching, listening, thinking, and that made it far more dangerous than any monster the crew had ever faced. Commander Rourke adjusted his grip on the old plasma rifle. The weapon hummed, pulsing with faint light. It had been a relic, forgotten in a sealed chamber, but it still worked, just like him. The containment chamber they now stood in was massive, once used to hold multiple failed experiments. Now it would be the arena, the final trap, if it worked. Varel crouched near the old command pillar, connecting her translator to the interface. She whispered, "I've rerouted power from the backup core. Enough for one more lockdown." Rourke nodded slowly. "Then we have one chance." Suddenly, a soft hissing filled the room, followed by dripping. A black liquid oozed from the vents above. Not blood, not oil, but stasis gel, partially digested. Then came the sound like claws dragging across bone. Subject 17 emerged. It didn't roar or scream. It just dropped to the floor like a panther, moving low and slow, its long limbs twisted unnaturally. Its body shimmered between metal and flesh, its four glowing eyes locked onto the team. Trix stepped back, terrified, but Rourke stepped forward, steady. "I know you," he said to the creature. "You remember me too." The creature tilted its head, as if amused. "You were the one who cried when we lost the others," it said. "You begged them to stop. But you didn't stop me." Rourke's jaw tightened. He remembered the screaming chambers, the broken protocols, the things they tried to bury. "Because I thought we could save you," he whispered. "But you chose this." Subject 17 moved. Fast, so fast the eye couldn't follow. It struck one of the alien soldiers, dragging him into the shadows. A scream echoed once, then stopped. The lights flickered violently, the ship groaning like it was in pain. "Now!" Varel shouted. She activated the trap. The old field projectors roared to life. Glowing energy walls formed a dome around the chamber, but the creature was already moving again. It darted around the walls, testing them. Then it stopped, looking at Rourke. It spoke in a dozen voices at once, male, female, machine, beast. "You think you've caged me again," it said, "but I've been awake far longer than you know." Then it leaped at Rourke, claws outstretched. He fired the plasma rifle. Blue light exploded across the room. The shot hit the creature in the chest, blasting it backward into the wall, but it got back up. Smiling, Trix screamed, "It's not dying." Rourke yelled, "It won't die like normal. Aim for the neural core between its second and third eye." The crew fired everything they had, but the creature was too fast. It danced through the air like a shadow with wings. Every time it was hit, it adapted. Its armor changed, its movement shifted. It was learning again. Rourke reached into his suit and pulled out a small black cube. It was old Earth tech, a neural disruptor, used only in emergency overrides. He pressed it against his own head, and it linked to the ship directly. He screamed in pain, but the ship responded instantly. "Override accepted," the ship said coldly. "Locking core." A deep vibration filled the chamber. The energy fields flared, trapping the creature inside. Subject 17 let out a sound that was not a scream, but a roar of rage. It charged at the walls, but they held. It clawed at the floor, but couldn't break through. And then, from the ceiling, old cannons dropped. Earth weapons, automated and silent for centuries, now active, now aimed. "Now," Rourke whispered. "Fire." The chamber lit up in pure white light. Blast after blast struck Subject 17. Its armor cracking, its body burning. It howled, flailing against the walls. And for a second, just a second, it begged, "Father, don't." Then silence, smoke filled the room. The crew stood still, gasping. their ears ringing. Trix finally asked, "Is it dead?" Rourke stared into the fire. "I don't know," he said, "but I know it's done. For now, asterisk, the chamber still smoked from the cannon blasts. Flickers of blue fire danced on the floor where Subject 17 had fallen. For a long moment, no one moved, no one spoke. Then slowly, the fire faded, and silence settled in like dust. Captain Varel staggered forward, her breathing heavy. Her armor was cracked, blood running down her side. She stared at the scorch marks on the wall and whispered, "Is it really over?" Commander Rourke didn't answer at first. He stood at the center of the chamber, rifle still warm in his hand. He was barely upright, his knees trembling, but his eyes were sharp. Eyes of someone who had seen 1,000 ends and lived through every one. Trix stepped closer and said, That wasn't war. That was a slaughter." Rourke finally turned to face them. "You thought humans were myths," he said softly. "You thought Earth was dust, and our stories were just fear-tales. But now you've seen what we really were." The crew stood in stunned silence. These were the best soldiers of the Galactic Union, well-trained, advanced, fearless, and yet, every one of them looked shaken, because nothing they had seen in their lifetimes, no war, no threat, no weapon, compared to the power they had just witnessed. Rourke limped toward the control panel. He pressed a sequence of buttons, and the projection from earlier returned. This time, it didn't show death. It showed Earth blue. Oceans, green forests, cities alive with light, children laughing, soldiers marching, scientists building. "We were more than war," Rourke said. "But we became what we needed to survive." Varel stepped beside him, still in awe. "You were alone all this time," she said, "watching over this ship, this prison. Why?" Rourke looked at her, voice steady. "Because if we let our worst creations escape, the galaxy wouldn't survive them. Not even together." He paused, then continued. "You think your fleets are strong. You think your alliances make you safe, but humans, we were born on a death world. Fighting was not a choice, it was how we breathed." A new projection appeared, battle logs, footage from long-dead wars, humans dropping into fire, fighting machines 3 times their size, explosions. Screams defiance, and in every frame, a human stood tall, bleeding, but never stopping. Trix shook his head slowly. How did your species vanish?" Rourke gave a bitter smile. "We didn't vanish," he said. "We burned out." He looked up at the stars above through a cracked viewport. "We fought too many wars, saved too many others who would never remember our names. And when peace came, there weren't enough of us left to enjoy it." Silence fell again, heavy and sad. Then the ship's voice echoed through the chamber. "Life signatures confirmed. Subject 17. Neutralized. Ship stability. 41%. Critical. Systems failing." Varel turned sharply. "The ship is dying." Rourke nodded. "It was bound to me, and I'm not what I used to be." He pulled out the detonator cube, now flickering with red light. "One last command, and the Raven will collapse. It'll take everything inside it into the void, including what's left of Subject 17. Trix buzzed nervously. "But we can help fix it." Rourke shook his head. "It was never meant to last this long. This ship was never a home, it was a tomb." Varel stepped forward, eyes locked on his. "Come with us," she said. "You've done enough. You deserve to rest. You deserve to live." Rourke looked at her for a long time, and for a moment he looked tired, truly tired. But then he straightened, smiling just a little. "Living isn't just breathing," he said. "I've done my part. Now you must remember it." He handed Varel a data crystal, small, old, glowing, faint blue. "This holds everything," he said. "Every battle, every sacrifice, every warning. Take it to your leaders. Let them know who we were." The ship began to shake. Again, pieces of the ceiling falling. The lights dimmed to orange. Alarms blared once more. Rourke walked back to the command seat. As he sat down, metal arms reached for him again. This time he welcomed them. The crew stood there, not wanting to go. "Go," he said firmly, "before the Raven sings her last." And so they ran, the path lit before them, the ship helping them escape, just once more. The alien crew ran through the shifting corridors behind them. The mighty ship groaned like an old beast taking its final breath. Metal folded, lights dimmed, and echoes followed their footsteps. Each hallway closed as they passed, not to trap them, but to protect them. Captain Varel turned once to look back, but all she saw was shadow and red light fading behind the bulkheads. There was no sign of Rourke. Only his last words remained in her ears. "Go. Before the Raven sings her last." The team reached their scout vessel, breathless and battered. The moment they sealed the hatch, the Raven sent one last signal. A soft, slow tone like the final note of an ancient song. It echoed through the dark space like a goodbye. Then, the ship began to collapse from orbit. It looked like a star dimming from within. Its core pulsed once, twice, then folded in on itself. No explosion, no chaos. Just a quiet implosion, controlled and absolute. The mighty Earth warship, built to hold monsters and guard a dark past, was gone. Silence returned to the edge of the death world. But something had changed. Inside the scout vessel, Varel sat with the data crystal in her hand. It was small, smaller than a coin, but heavy with meaning. She stared at it as if it were alive. Trick stood beside her, his antennae drooping low. "No one will believe this," he said quietly. Varel didn't reply right away. Then she whispered, "They don't have to believe it. They just need to remember it." She inserted the crystal into the ship system, a projection. Rose blue light forming into files, logs, memories, voices spoke, footage played. Humans building cities from ash, holding each other in bunkers lit by fire, fighting machines with spears and bare hands, saving worlds that would never know their names. There were no parades, no applause, just quiet sacrifice, over and over, until there were no more left to fight. The final log was a personal message. Rourke's face appeared recorded before the collapse. He looked older than ever, his voice tired but proud. "To whoever finds this," he began, "you now carry the story of Earth. We were born in fire, grew through struggle, and died on our feet. We made mistakes, but we tried to fix them. We didn't ask to be heroes, we just didn't want to be forgotten." He leaned forward, eyes burning with something deeper than war. "If humanity taught the galaxy one thing," he said, "let it be this. Sometimes monsters come with sharp teeth, but sometimes they wear a smile and call themselves progress. And sometimes the only thing standing in their way is someone with nothing left to lose." The message ended. Silence returned to the ship. Later, the scout vessel returned to the Galactic Union High Council. They brought no treasures, no weapons, only the crystal and the truth. Leaders watched the footage in disbelief. Some denied it, some wept, but none could ignore what they saw. The Union marked the coordinates of the Death World as restricted. Not out of fear this time, but out of respect. A monument was placed in orbit. It held no name, no flag, only a phrase written in hundreds of languages. He guarded what should not have been made, and chose to stand alone. "We remember the last human." Generations passed, the name Rourke became legend, not for how many he killed, but for how long he fought so others wouldn't have to. In classrooms, across the stars, alien children asked, "Were humans really that strong?" And their teachers would answer, "No, they were stronger." And in deep space, beyond light and sound, there's a silence that feels not empty, but watched. Protected still by a memory that refuses to die. The Raven is gone, but the legacy of Earth still echoes.